All right. Hey, welcome back to the Preacher and the Prodigy College Football Predictions. It's week number 4 in this 2021 season. It's been an eventful season. What are your big picture takeaways on the college football season through 3 weeks, Jericho?
Alabama almost lost. I didn't think I'd say that, but Alabama almost lost in the swamp. Florida had a really tough game, came down to the wire. I heard there was an extra point missed, and then if they had made that extra point, then they could have just tied the game, but they had to go for 2 and they didn't get it, so the game ended with a 2-point loss for Florida. The whiteout game, Penn State won that game by 8. That was a pretty fun game.
I think for me, my big picture takeaways are the 5 or 6 superpowers in college football all appear to be vulnerable. Alabama, as you mentioned, very tight game in the swamp. Florida's going to be a tough place to play, but I had Alabama covering 14.5.
I did too. We both did. We both got that.
Ohio State loses to Oregon and really is uncomfortable in games against Minnesota and needs the last 3 minutes of the game to put distance between them and Tulsa. And now Kerry Combs replaced as the defensive coordinator. C.J. Stroud out for a week. And then you look at Clemson, nail biter against Georgia Tech, 14-8 final. Oklahoma just barely gets by Tulane. Notre Dame
barely gets by Nebraska too. That rivalry game.
Correct. Notre Dame really should have lost to Toledo, and Toledo did some poor clock management there, scoring a touchdown when they could have kneeled and kicked the game-winning field goal. So right now, Georgia seems to be the team that has proven the most, but again, they didn't even score an offensive touchdown against Clemson. So it seems like there's parity in college football this year, and so it could be a fun year.
And right now, the only team that hasn't really had a legitimate close game against I don't want to say, but a team that they think they should have beaten, like a lot more, would be Oregon. Because Fresno State is a really solid football team.
Yeah, Fresno State.
And Oregon beats Ohio State. They pound Stony Brook. In the Pac-12,
which is saying something. You don't just roll out of bed and pound Stony Brook.
Yeah, but I mean, it just really has not shown me that much doubt. Even without Kayvon Thibodeau and Justin Flo, their 2 best defensive players.
So right now, it would seem like you could legitimately think about maybe a dozen teams as playoff contenders right now. Often it's like, well, how many doors are going to be open to that? 2 or 3. Clemson's already lost one. Losing another one might knock them out. Alabama probably has some margin, but Ohio State's lost the game. So, yeah, who's going to jump in there? Is it going to be a Penn State? Is it going to be, a team like Oregon? Is it going to be one of the 2 Michigan schools who are both playing much better than anticipated?
Yep.
So we got a lot to talk about over the course of this year. This week, less to talk about. A pretty boring slate of games, actually, for week 4. And we've instituted a new rule that whoever is leading in the Preacher versus the Prodigy game count has to pick 3 games first, because otherwise they could just use a rope-a-dope strategy and try to win out the rest of the year by picking the same thing as the other person picked. So right now, I am at 10-5. You are at 6-9. An embarrassing 6-9. And so I will pick 3 games first. You'll pick 2 games first. That will give you the opportunity at minimum to make up 1 game.
That means you get started off.
All right. Game number 1.
Nebraska at Michigan State. Michigan State is giving 5 points.
Yeah. So Nebraska really played a terrific game against Oklahoma. They in the locker room, Nebraska guys are saying, we're going to win out. We've got our confidence back. Michigan State, at the beginning of the year, a lot of us thought they were a 5-7 type team. And again, Miami caveats being what they are. Michigan State has looked better. I'm going to take Michigan State. I'm going to lay the points, and I'm going to take the Spartans to cover in a game that I think will be kind of a 27 to 20 type game.
And I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I mean, Michigan State, we had an argument about this last night. Michigan State's running game has been really hard to stop. Kenneth Walker is the leading rusher right now in rushing yards. I'm pretty sure in all of college football right now. And Nebraska showed some signs of wholesomeness against Oklahoma, putting number 3 team on the ropes. Although Oklahoma has had some close games, it's pretty nice. I wouldn't say it's a nice loss, but it's
kind of a quality loss.
It's a quality
on the
loss.
road against the number 3 team in the country.
And you only lose by 7, which is good. But I got to take Michigan State. They've just looked solid. I mean, Nebraska losing to Illinois.
Yeah.
It's not going to help them at all. And Michigan State 3-0 for the first time since their playoff run in 2015. So I'm going to take Michigan State here.
All right, we agree.
Okay, coming down to Texas, we have the number 14 team in the country, Iowa State Cyclones, at Baylor. Iowa State is giving 7.
Iowa State coming off a big win against the UNLV, which they were never really tested. Yeah. Baylor undefeated, correct?
Undefeated, yep. They look strong.
Fighting Dave Arandas.
They look strong against, Kansas, but it's Kansas.
Right.
Oh, man. No, I'm going to take Baylor this one. I think Baylor has shown that they're a really good team. They've allowed 7 points in each of the last 2 games, and they scored something like 66 and 45 points. And their only real close game was against Texas State. Now, given it's the first game of the year, so I think that one could maybe go as a fluke. They still win it, though. And I'm going to take Baylor at home against Iowa State.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, I think we called this the Audition Bowl because we saw Matt Rule and Matt Campbell both as guys who were probably on the radars for bigger jobs. Matt Rule, of course, since has gone over to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers and is having decent success. Matt Campbell still at Iowa State, maybe waiting for the right job. This is a tough one to call, too. I'm going to take Iowa State. I'm tempted to go with Baylor with you, and 7 points seems like a lot. But I think that it seems like Matt Campbell's pattern is the beginning of the year. He always has a clunker against a northern Iowa type of school, loses to Iowa, and then shortly thereafter gets it figured out. I like Breece Hall on the road. I like the ability of Matt Campbell to make adjustments. I think that 7 is a really attractive number for something right on the nose, but I'm going to take Iowa State to win the game by at least 8.
All right, so that's 2 picks in, 3 to go. Rutgers at the Big House, our number 19 Michigan team. Michigan is minus 20.5. Now, this is coming after Rutgers players got accused and suspended because of domestic violence with a paintball gun. So they will be losing a starter at, I think, it's cornerback.
And did that move the line about 2 points, maybe? Was it 19?
1 or 2 points.
Yeah.
But all in all, that shouldn't affect them too much. But our Michigan Wolverines have been looking solid.
Yeah.
Their running game is number 1 average running team in the country.
So in Michigan's 3 games, they have beat the spread by an average of 19. Not that they've won games by 19. They've beat the number by 19. Michigan is much better through 3 games than I thought they'd be. Now, I predicted them to start the year 4-0, and so they haven't won any more games than I thought, but they've looked better, and the fancy stats and advanced metrics love Michigan right now. I'm going to take Rutgers. I think this game is a 38-20 type of a game. I think Michigan is in control. Rutgers is going to get they're going to get a punt return touchdown or a kickoff return touchdown. They're going to get a special teams touchdown, something like that. I think at the end of the day, Michigan's yardage, kind of yards per play, things like that, third down conversions will be much better than Rutgers. But Rutgers under Greg Schiano will do something timely, and this game could be 21-10 at halftime or something like that. And Michigan feels uncomfortable. I'm going to go with Rutgers. Maybe it's a hedge on the heart, but I think that Michigan comes down to earth just a little bit. In the first Big Ten game, I'll take Michigan 38-20.
I got to go with Michigan. I think it's going to be a blowout from the start. It might be like 21-3 at the end of the first. They're just going to pound the rock and get a very good yards per carry average. It could be something like 31-10 at the half, and then Michigan just starts to slow down. Starts to just put in some backups like they did against Northern Illinois. Maybe give Donovan Edwards and Tavier Dunlap a couple more carries.
We're not going to see Dunlap in this game, but we'll see.
Maybe we might.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
But I'm going to take Michigan. You said 19 points over the spread on average, not total, on average.
Right, over the spread.
Over the spread, and I think that's going to continue not by 19 points, but maybe by 7 or so.
What do you see the final score of this game?
I see the final score of this game being like 38-17, maybe a 45.
That's pretty much. I said 38-20. All you're doing is you're leaning on the edge of the.
I need to get games
there.
here, all right? So I think it's going to be a blowout from the start, and then Michigan's just going to start to settle down. But I'm going to take Michigan in this one.
See, part of the reason that Michigan has beaten the spread by so many points is because they've ripped off so many scores in the run game. And I just don't think they're going to get as many 40, 50-yard runs in this game. So I do think Michigan will have fewer possessions, and it's really hard to outscore a team by 20 with fewer possessions. So we'll disagree. Gives you a chance to catch up.
All right. At Jerry World Stadium, we have the number 7 team in the country, Texas A&M, going up against the upstart,
fighting Sam Pittman's.
Yeah, Arkansas Hogs. The line is Texas A&M by 4.5.
Yeah, you picked this one first.
You know what? I'm going to take Arkansas. I think they just came out of the gates and just showed everybody that they can be not quite a top 4 team in the SEC, but they can be kind of legit. And Texas A&M almost losing to Colorado. And remember, Colorado got blown out by 30.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
And Texas A&M really has not shown that they were the team that they were last year, not the firepower on offense. And losing their starting quarterback, Haynes King, does not help. And I'm going to take Arkansas and KJ Jefferson, and I like what Sam Pittman has done there. Sam Pittman is a very good coach. Offensive
line coach. I can't tell you how much I agree with you, other than to say I would take Arkansas plus 4.5. I'd take Arkansas minus 4.5 rather. I think Arkansas is playing very confident football, and these games, these Texas A&M Arkansas games, I said the other day, they always are fairly close games. They sometimes go into overtime, or they feel like they've gone into overtime. Very competitive, very entertaining games. I think it's a similar vein this year at a neutral site. I think that Arkansas could win this game by a touchdown in overtime. I think they're going to win this game by a touchdown. I like the Hogs. I like what Sam Pittman is building there. A fantastic recruiter, terrific offensive line coach, and the team is playing with a great deal of confidence. And again, Texas A&M down a quarterback.
And 7 against 16, and when you pick 16 to win, you don't pick them to win by much. So, an overtime game is possible, but in the end, I see Arkansas outright winning.
All right,
this game.
So we agree on 2, we disagree on 2. Bring us to the final game.
Coming to Soldier Field, college game day, Notre Dame, who's been on the ropes with a lot of bad teams, going up against Wisconsin. The line on this game is Wisconsin giving 6.5.
I'll take all 6.5. Going with the Irish in this one. I think Notre Dame is a better team than they have looked. I think they've worked out some of the kinks. Obviously, they looked very poor in Tallahassee, but Tallahassee is a tough environment to play on a Sunday night when everybody's jacked up. Notre Dame, it really did not play well against Toledo, as we know. I think Notre Dame puts it together this week, and I just do not see Wisconsin winning by a touchdown. I think Notre Dame may win the game, but I do think that they'll cover. Give me the Irish.
This is a tough one.
I think Jack Cohn can really move the ball around the field.
Yeah,
and
Jack
Kyron
Cohn,
Williams.
Jack Cohn coming from Wisconsin. So
yeah, and I think he's going to be motivated. I think the Soldier Field crowd, I think it's going to be a little bit more Notre Dame than Wisconsin.
Man.
I'm going with the Irish.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to go Wisconsin. I mean,
Rolling the dice on a disagree.
Notre Dame has almost lost. They went to overtime against a team. You said it was Saturday night. Well, apparently Jacksonville State came into Tallahassee.
It was Sunday night.
Sunday night. Well, I mean, that's what you said. But then Jacksonville State, FCS team, comes into Tallahassee and beats them. Okay, I know they won a last-second touchdown, but you ain't going to win the game on one touchdown unless it's 7-0.
Look, I agree with you. Notre Dame has not played well, and I think that what we know about Notre Dame has been put into that number at 6.5, and I think Notre Dame cleans some things up this week because I don't think they're 6.5 points worse than Wisconsin.
But
I think that they're snapping out of it.
I just say that Wisconsin's defense is so hard to score on. Okay, they allowed the number what is it? Is Penn State 5 or is it 4? I can't remember, but it was scoreless at halftime against Penn State. And I think that, Paul Chryst is going to run a time of possession offense. So he's not going to let Kyron Williams or Jack Cohn on the field.
I think your point is made better if the game's playing at Camp Randall. This is in an NFL stadium. If they're not jumping around, I just think it's not going to be as intimidating.
If this game was at Notre Dame, I might take Notre Dame, but this game is at a neutral site.
Right. So you don't have to take Notre Dame to win.
No, I'm going to take
You're laying
Wisconsin.
6.5. Give me all the points then, baby. I'll take them.
All right. So
we disagree on 3.
So I can pull this within 1 by the end of the week.
Or you could be down by 7.
7. That's not good.
So we'll have to see what happens. We agree on a couple of the games, disagree on 3 of the games. I'm going to ask you this as a closing. As a Michigan fan, do you want Wisconsin coming to that game where they host Michigan next weekend, coming off a big win over Notre Dame, or coming and having lost to Notre Dame? What kind of Wisconsin do you want to face?
A win.
You want to
face? I want to face a win because the Wisconsin team, basically any team, if you come off a loss where you should win, you're going to be angry. All right, you want to win the next game big time.
Mm-hmm.
They're given 6.5 points to the number 12 team in the country. If they lose that game, they're going to be mad. So I don't want them to be furious and have Paul Chryst dial up his time of possession clock and just keep on having 90 yard, 18 play drives that last 8 minutes. And Michigan, maybe has a couple first downs and then doesn't get it, and then it happens again, and then by then we're just not going to win the game. So I want to go up against a statistically better team, better in rankings, and if we win that game, it'll help us. If we lose that game, it will also help us.
All right. We'll see. I was just curious. So we'll see how things go this week until week 5 next week. I'm the Preacher.
I'm the Prodigy.
Peace out.